Welcome to Sharing the Light with yours truly, Professor V, your COVID-19 inaugural Master Barber and Master Educator. As you can see, I am definitely a product of this sheltered in place. Sheltered in place I am. As you can see, I am in desperate need of some grooming. But because my industry has been deemed non-essential, that it's kind of impossible at this time for me to legally go out and get a professional service. Somebody asked, why don't you cut your own hair? No, I don't cut my own hair. Can I do it? Yes. Do I do it? No. So right now, that's not an option for me. I want everyone to be able to see the effects of what is being called non-essential. Now, if I told you that I'm excited about bringing you this message, that would be the farthest thing from the truth. That is certainly not my intentions to be boastful and be proud to bring this message. But I think it's vital because I've gotten phone calls, I've gotten emails, and I've gotten just messages in general through my social media about my thoughts. So I decided, hey, why don't I just do this video? Because the people in my industry, we are hurting. Y'all hear me? We are hurting. So, without further ado, let me get into the meat and potatoes. Now, I feel as if I have a fiduciary duty because, for one, I'm the former president of the CSRA, Palmetto State Barbers Association, Chapter 3, which encompasses the western portion of South Carolina, as well as the eastern center portion of the state of Georgia, adjoining us by the Savannah River. So we have a pretty big area that we covered. And I just think it's so important that we know the effects of what's going on with this particular event that's really tearing our industry apart. So I jotted down a few notes here, and I'm going to kind of go over a few things with you all, just sharing my thoughts. And of course, I want you all to do the same thing, leave a comment and all that good stuff. So if you are representing this industry, being a student or professional in the tonsorial industry, cosmetology, esthetician, the alpha keratin technician, it doesn't matter. I think this information applies to you as well. So maybe even someone that you serve. So I use the term COVID-19 personal service professional. That allows me to speak on this unwanted place in history that has classified us as non-essential workers. Non-essential. Now, throughout history, through wars, etc., our industry has been deemed essential for various reasons, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Now, I would like to say that we, being non-essential, but we're part of an industry that is being deemed essential, and rightfully so, Now, I say that to say this. We all have the personal human health concerns in our fields. Does that make sense? In other words, we all carry the responsibility of human health. Now, hygiene is deemed the basis of healthful living. Who does hygiene? We do. Hygiene is defined as the basis of healthful living, in my words. But when you look at the dictionary gives you a little bit deeper meaning. Not much, but just a little deeper meaning. So that was my definition. So let me give it to you from the dictionary here. So let's see what it says here. So we talk about hygiene. Hygiene is defined as conditions or practices conducive to maintaining health and preventing diseases. Maintaining health and preventing diseases, especially through cleanliness. Now, there are 6 types of health that we as human beings are constantly concentrating on. There's 6. And going back to my notes here, 1 is your spiritual health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your environmental health, and your social health. Those are 6 that we as human beings have a big concentration on. Now, the services we offer has the potential to lessen the stress levels that take on a parasitic approach to all those healths that we're concerned about. And what I mean by that is stress is the culprit of most deaths. With a mixture of different illnesses or sicknesses, stress oftentimes is what's going to take you out. A lot of times the body itself can heal the condition that it may be in. But the stress levels that we're under oftentimes is what take us to the grave. So, with that being said, who's going to take care of our first responders who are working tirelessly, day in, day out, under these stressful conditions, seeing people dying? That alone can be stressful. But yet, all they have to rely on is the essential business of the liquor store. That's right, the liquor stores. But our core approach in our industry is hygiene. It's infused in the art and science of our skills. That's what we do. So let's look at it from a human anatomy perspective. I look at us in the hair care industry or the personal service industry as like lymph nodes are to the body. And we know that lymph nodes are throughout the body, and what they do is they filter out the blood in various places. It filters out the blood. What we do in the personal service industry is pretty much the same thing. So can you imagine you've worked all week? Just picture this. You worked all week. You've seen people die. You saved some. You just constantly rushed. You're constantly bringing people in. And I'm talking about our first responders. I'm talking about the front line folks who are dealing with this COVID-19. Can you imagine getting off from work on a Friday, on a Saturday morning, stopping by your local barber, your local stylist, a nail technician, to be able to breathe, decompress, let us lymph nodes do what we do, relieve you from those stressful situations, give you a sense of normalcy, renew your strength, so that when it's all said and done, after you've gotten that relaxing shave or facial or shampoo or style or pedicure or haircut or manicure, whatever the service is, it's just that moment to be who you are, say what you want to say, and just level out. It's needed. Beauty and health work hand in hand. Simple as that. If you take one away, the other one works harder and stresses. And we know what happens. Because good managers should know that it's not healthy to consistently overwork someone or something. We all need that outlet. We all need that support system. We all need that moment to rest and rejuvenate. So if you're that type of manager that just want to work people to death, then you'll see eventually that your structure of your business is going to decline. And people you're going to have to constantly replace. But take a moment. and allow your people to decompress. So it's like if you don't allow your people to do what they need to do to have a sense of normalcy, it's like you getting in the bathtub washing only the parts of your body that you want to keep. Now, ideally, you would think that you want to keep all parts of your body. So therefore, you would take care of all parts of your body, because your body itself is a system, that one system works in an effort to help the other system. We as professionals in the hair care industry or the personal service care industry, our job is to take care of the people. Okay? It's nothing like getting a good report from your doctor and looking in the mirror and you see yourself looking good, feeling good, and you have a total good report. Well, sometimes you may get a bad report from your doctor and still go and see your stylist or your barber. And that it gives you time to release, again, be normal. And then when you look at yourself, it turns on a light and lets you know there's hope. So it starts to build you up, builds your self-esteem up, build that hope, and that builds that faith up a little stronger, so that you're able to overcome whatever type of conditions that you may be facing or dealing with. So to remove this industry, to me, doesn't quite make sense. Now, the White House has a barber on staff. Parts of the military have closed down barbershops, but the Marine base decided to keep the barbershops on. And your Army decided that, well, hey, we'll let that be based upon the actual bases. And I think AAFES closed many, if not all, of their shops down. Their shops on the Navy ships. So if you are trained, because all 50 states in the United States requires some form of formal education for those folks that we're speaking of in the personal services industry. We're required to have certain trainings, and we are tested. We're scrutinized through governmental agencies that don't just scrutinize you one time and give you a license, but they evaluate you throughout your career. So we are licensed and trained on proper sanitation and disinfection. So let's take a moment and see what's taking place on the Marine base. Okay, so did you notice that they were wearing, or they were practicing good safety measures, wearing PPE, personal protective equipment, or gear as some of us call it? Yeah, the same thing that each one of us could have been doing. Some of us were doing it. So that's why, because we know better, that after each client, we're sweeping the floors, we're cleaning our equipment, we're sanitizing our equipment. Now, we normally don't disinfect throughout the day because disinfection process takes a little longer. But your disinfection is usually done in the mornings and in the evenings before you leave, and sometimes in the middle of the day. But sanitation goes on throughout the day. We're constantly sweeping the floor after each client. We're constantly washing or sanitizing our hands. We are spraying our tools and implements. This goes on throughout the day. We make sure that each client has clean, sanitized neck protection before we put a chair cloth or a cutting cape around their neck and make sure that it doesn't touch the skin. Those are things that we're trained to do. We're also trained to treat every person that comes in our business using universal precaution, which means that everybody that walks in the door, in our minds, are infected by something that can be transferred to someone else. So therefore, we put practices in place daily. That's part of our business. It's infused in our business. But yet, we're not essential. So, and that's fine. And that's fine. But the problem with being non-essential at this particular juncture is you're taking the livelihood away from honest, hard-working people. And I've always believed that when you take something from someone, you should replace it with something of greater, not equal, but greater value. I don't think that's taking place right now. Billions of dollars have been allocated for small businesses. Now, we've been told that the money's gone. Why? Probably because the major companies have gulped it up. So what does that leave us? That leaves a lot of you practitioners who are trying to survive, who are trying to provide for their families, to practice in inadequate conditions. It's nothing like being in your own place of business where you know that you can properly sanitize and disinfect. But house calls, we don't know what's happening. So I just believe in two things. Provisions should have been made so that we can support the other part of our industry, which is the healthcare aspect of our industry, so that we can support them and relieve them of their pains and stresses from a day-to-day task. Even if the government had said we can only service those folks, that's fine. But yet you take everything away. And again, the livelihood of the people are being destroyed in this industry because many of us could not afford those things that keep you afloat. Healthcare. Yes, many of us jumped in on board through the Affordable Health Care Act, which was helpful for many. Some others say maybe not. But we're yet to find that happy medium that's going to help everybody. So, what do? Again, provisions should have been made, but they were not. So, colleagues, it's time for us to stop relying on the government. Okay? We are a huge industry, one of the oldest industries in the world, but we do not get justifiable representation. Why? Because we aren't sticking together. We're not sticking together. So, colleagues, it's time for us to take back our profession, join forces through associations, guilds, societies, any other meaningful organization, so that collectively, we would have a voice. Alcohol was chosen as essential, and I'm not mad at that. Why? Because I'm sure they had representation. And all these industries who are deemed essential, I'm sure, were at the table. Somebody had a representative at the table during the time of the decision making. Now, granted, you may have been at the table and still got deemed non-essential. But it's better to be at a table with a voice than to be away hollering and screaming where no one else can hear you. So I got calls again. I got some folks contacting me, and that kind of prompted me to do what we're doing right now. You know, sharing the light. I've been doing that for a few weeks now since I've been quarantined, and I utilize this platform also in my classroom. And who knows, maybe it becomes something. But my concept is to give out meaningful information. So I want you all to know now is not the time to be divisive. This is the time now that we link up. This is the time that we plan so that when the gates are open, we hit the ground running. We don't hit the ground, y'all, what should we do? No, we already have a plan. So again, now is the time to join forces and not be divisive, not be unloyal, You know where you are. You know what you're doing. If you're an apprentice in somebody's shop, and you was an apprentice when this interruption came about, you still should be at that shop working when the gates open back up, because somebody supported and believed in you. This is not the time to jump ship, folks, because you're going to make a bad situation worse. Now, I'm not saying for those of you who are interested in doing your own thing, I understand that. But take your time, because we don't know. This has been a very difficult thing for me. And I've been fortunate enough to run 3 barbershops consistently, and so far so good. But I don't know how much longer I can personally take it. So we've got to do some things, y'all, to join forces to get this thing together. So the question is, where is the National Barber and Stylist Credit Union? Where's the Carrington's Bank of America? I don't know. I just made that up. I think that should be a reality. But it's not. There are enough of us in this industry